you made this statement that basically said that by the end of this year, by the end of 2026, it may be imprudent to rely solely on human legal or medical advice due to the emergence and the progress of AI. First of all, what led you to make that statement? Let's start there. What led you to make that statement? Because it's a very provocative statement, right?
Yeah. Well, I have so it's hard for anyone to know exactly how these models work. And in fact, the people who are closest to them don't always agree and don't even all necessarily claim to know how they work. I have I subscribe to a point of view that I think is a minority point of view, but I think it's right. So what I would say the majority of people assume they act as if the frontier models like OpenAI or Claude from Anthropic or whatever, that they are like a 5-year-old kid or not 5, let's say 10-year-old kid who's read the encyclopedia and memorized it, sort of an idiot savant kind of thing. Um, I think of the models as pattern matchers. That is, they find deep patterns in things. And when you see, and so they might be, I could see in text, and they might apply it to or a radiological image. But the patterns, they don't find patterns quite the way you or I would, or they find them the way you or I would if we fell into schizophrenia or took acid or
Mm,
something like that. So you get on the negative side of that, you get the phenomenon of hallucination, where it will confidently say something that we know is wrong, just as a schizophrenic might do that. But on the other hand, they find things that you would say, "Oh, only a genius could find this," or that was, and yeah. So the important thing, I'm sort of getting away from this uh, kid who memorized the encyclopedia model and toward this pattern setting model, and I'm watching them getting better and better and better, and that's uh, if no one person can keep track of the models, but if you watch what I call the chatter, the people who are sort of big believers in AI are moving in the direction of, well, they're just getting better. And the people who are skeptics, some of them are shifting over. So I've seen a couple of economists who I think who were at least non-users of AI now saying, "Oh God, this is amazing. This is better than what if I sent this paper off to to a journal, I wouldn't get as accurate and helpful a referee report as what I just got from this AI."
right.
Um, and I've seen that myself. Of sort of, I'll submit something to an AI and get something back. And say, wow, if a human had thought of that, I would have been really, really impressed. Um, so that, and I think that just comes from this pattern matching and whatever else they're doing to improve these models. Um, so then when you apply it to sort of law or medicine, I mean, your instinct is to say, do I trust the 10-year-old who's memorized the encyclopedia, or do I trust a doctor who, is a specialist and has all this domain knowledge? Well, clearly, if you have that in your mind, you trust the doctor. But if you have the other in mind, you might say, at some point, these frontier models are going to get better at your specialty than you are. And so, um, probably, I'm thinking by the end of this year, it'll be a combination of the domain expert, the lawyer or the doctor, and the model. But if you throw out either one, by this year, you're going to be making a mistake. And if you ask me where that goes in 3 or 4 years, you might be able to get away with throwing away the doctor or the lawyer and just relying on the model.
Well, I tend to agree with you because I view these in my younger years, I was a coder, and I back in the '90s, I tried my hand at doing the hot coding back then, which was parallel programming and, very, very basic, language modeling, and I've always viewed these things as a tool more than anything else. Like, I don't trust AI to be creative or something, but, uh, as a tool, I find them extremely useful and extremely efficient and very, very, very helpful, and it will be interesting in 3 or 4 years to see if that sort of pattern recognition and sort of validation of their core data set helps because those, if you look at something like Grok, which was initially trained on Twitter, Grok was a horrible AI to start because it would only look at that subset of data that existed on Twitter or X. And now as it's incorporating more sources, it's getting better. Do you think AI vindicates or challenges your views about distributed knowledge?
It, possibly, you can have a. So the classic argument for decentralized markets is there's a lot of knowledge out there that's in people's heads that um, that doesn't that they can't articulate. It's called tacit knowledge. Also, there's just so much complexity that is simplified for people if all they have to do is face a price. If all I have to do is face a price, I don't know have to know why um, gasoline became more expensive. I just know I want to use less of it. I don't have to become a geopolitical strategist or whatever. But if you're trying to plan the economy from the center, you have to know all that stuff. Um, I think it's possible for an AI to learn more of both of those things. It may learn, it can handle more of the complexity. Uh, it can understand how a higher gasoline price came to be and consider how to deal with it. And the other thing is that may be able to infer things that are tacit in people's minds that it couldn't infer before. Having said that, I don't think that's going to be a very big deal. I don't think we're going to discover that an AI can centrally plan the economy anytime uh,
Right.
in this decade.
Do you think there's danger though that if people start becoming more and more reliant on AI, and as you mentioned earlier, there's really not even among the creators of the AI, there's really not a good understanding of how it's built up its pattern recognition and that the foundational data that it may have been based on may have been biased or incorrect. And there's been a lot of, I think, study put in that area. So from that perspective, do you feel if there's an AI, whether it's just to use the popular ones now, like a ChatGPT or a Claude or something like that, or they're using the internet as their primary sources for the most part. Are you concerned that it may be building this wonderful mechanism on a pile of garbage that, if it had, initial bad premises or biased data, that it's just gonna propagate that as it becomes more and more integrated into our daily lives?
Um, that's not my my chief concern over it. I think um, as long as kind of the internal reward systems it has are uh, for accuracy and uh, getting good results, I don't think it will uh, degenerate into garbage. Again, if you just thought of it as reading the encyclopedia, and the encyclopedia had a lot of bad data in it, that you would that would be a big concern. But I don't think of it. I think it's they've got the models. The people building the models are putting in reward systems that I think make that less of a risk.
Do you think there's what would if there's any potential hazards with the growing role that AI plays in our lives and looking ahead? What do you think is the greatest liability? What do you think is the greatest possible threat, if any, that comes out of AI?
Um, I would say one thing is it could make evil people a lot more capable.
Mm,
They could, um, especially as people trust AI to do more and more, or trust computers to do more and more, um, then you know evil people can do worse things. The other thing is sort of uh, kind of losing a sense of meaning. Somebody asked me the other day, "Well, what would um, what will happen to, let's say, a student or an intellectual when they just get the feeling that there's nothing that they can do that's as smart as what an AI does? Do they, where do they get their sense of meaning and purpose if that happens?" And that's a tough question to answer. I used to play this board game competitively, game called Othello,
mm.
sort of like chess or checkers. Took it very seriously until somebody wrote a computer program that I just could not possibly beat. And that was it for me for never wanting to play an Othello tournament again. Now, it's interesting in the world of chess, the people are very active in that world now, even though we know that the best chess players are computer programs. I don't quite understand why that is or how that is, but uh, to me, that's the question. We retain our sense of purpose and meaning in a world where know any problem that we could solve, an AI could solve better.
Yeah, and certainly the answer to that question would have huge ramifications in a lot of different areas, not just for the individual, but for society as a
Mm.
whole.